The chamber of the Celestial Conclave was built to make every species feel small. It floated inside a hollowed moon, carved with spirals of molten crystal that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Delegates from 200 worlds packed the ascending tiers, scaled, feathered, plated, luminous, each perched in their hovering thrones as the air vibrated with tension. At the center stood a dais of blackstone, grown from the moon itself. And on it towered King Valor of the Zirak Dominion, armored in bone metal and draped in the flayed hide of a leviathan slain by his ancestors. His voice didn't echo, echoes ran from him in fear. "You will yield Earth's starline defenses," he thundered, "or your worlds will burn until every ocean boils." No one argued. No one breathed. Even the Conclave's energy field stuttered at his fury. Then one of the side doors slid open with a soft whisper, a sound too small, too fragile for this place. A human stepped through. Not a soldier. Not an admiral. A diplomat. He wore a charcoal gray suit with faint metallic threads woven through it. No armor. No escort. No weapons. His hands were empty, and somehow, that made the entire chamber tense. "What is this?" Valor snarled. "Earth sends child soft flesh to answer a war decree?" The diplomat didn't react. He walked with the kind of quiet purpose you only saw in surgeons before a difficult cut, or executioners before a familiar one. Most delegates expected fear to show on his face. But fear requires uncertainty, and Elias Rowan radiated none. He stopped at the edge of the dais, bowed, not to Valor, but to the conclave itself, and said, in a voice just loud enough to reach the edges, "My name is Elias Rowan. I am Earth's representative." His tone was steady. Measured. Almost gentle. A low ripple of nervous whispers coursed through the tiers. Valor leaned forward, mandibles peeling into something between a grin and a threat. "You approach me without guards. Without fleet. Without tribute. Tell me, human, did you come to offer your species for mercy?" "No," Elias answered. "I came for clarity." Several delegates tilted their heads, unsure whether he was brave or deeply foolish. Valor's claws clicked against the stone. "Then listen well, surrender your planetary shields, compensate for the star your colony destroyed, and kneel before the Dominion. Fail, and you condemn your species to extinction." Elias let the words settle, like dust on a coffin lid. When he finally spoke, it was quiet enough that the conclave leaned forward. "Earth does not kneel." A murmur. A shiver. A shift of the room. Valor's crown lights flared with fury. "You deny responsibility for the destruction of the Kezhar star?" "Responsibility requires causation," Elias said calmly. "And Earth caused nothing. You benefited." Valor roared. "Your expeditions moved freely once the Kezhar patrol routes collapsed." Elias didn't blink. "Convenience is not guilt, Your Majesty." His tone wasn't defiant, just factual. That made it worse. Valor slammed one massive claw onto the dais, cracking it. "You dare bring factuality into my accusation?" "That," Elias said softly, "is the problem." Delegates exchanged glances. Humans were known for two things, unpredictability and inconvenient logic. Valor rose to full height, almost 3 meters of scaled muscle and ceremonial bone armor. "You believe your words hold weight here?" "I believe truth does." "Truth," the king hissed, "is whatever I decide truth is." Elias looked at him with a level expression that held neither contempt nor fear. "That's why I am here." That line froze the chamber. Delegates leaned closer. Even the living walls dimmed their bioluminescence in anticipation. Valor stepped down from his throne. His guards tensed, forming a semicircle, weapons humming to life. "You walk into my chamber, into my shadow, and tell me you came to correct a king?" "No," Elias replied. "I came to deliver a message." "And what is that message?" Elias moved one step closer, just one, and all 6 guards lowered their blades, instinct overriding protocol. "Earth does not fear you." Silence. A deep, ancient silence, like the pause before a star collapses. Vaylor's mandibles twitched. So Earth sends a diplomat to die instead of a soldier to fight. I didn't come here to die, Elias said. A flicker of something passed through Vaylor's expression, annoyance first, then curiosity. Then why stand before me unarmed? Elias reached down and unfastened his left cuff. Delegates gasped. Vaylor's guards leveled their weapons. But Elias only rolled up his sleeve, exposing a small black band around his wrist, smooth, unadorned, almost meaningless. This, he said, is why. Vaylor laughed, a deep, grinding sound. A trinket? A charm? You think an artifact will protect you? It won't, Elias said. But I don't need protection. He stepped onto the dais. Guards snapped to full alert. Several delegates leaned out of their seats as if witnessing a legendary beginning, or a catastrophic ending. Vaylor's voice dropped to a growl. One more step, human, and I end you. Elias studied him for a moment, calm as a winter lake. Majesty, he said softly, you declared war before seeking inquiry. You demanded surrender before presenting evidence. You prepared your fleets before entering the chamber. His next words were sharper, colder. You sealed your fate before I arrived. The conclave trembled. Some delegates instinctively reached for exit tunnels. Others whispered hurried translations. Vaylor's eyes narrowed. What do you think you know? I know your fleets are already in warp, Elias said. Moving toward neutral systems. Ignoring conclave law. A wave of shock rippled through the hall. Only the Dominion's highest rank should have known that. Impossible, Vaylor snapped. Your species has no access to Dominion channels? Elias finished. We do now. Delegates gasped. One of Vaylor's guards looked sideways in fear. Elias stepped closer. But even that isn't why I'm here. And why are you here? Vaylor spat. To end the war you've already started. The king laughed. By yourself? Elias said nothing. Instead, he unlatched the small black band from his wrist. It unfolded with a faint flicker, becoming a thin, dark metallic thread trailing between his fingers like a living shadow. A weapon? No. Something far worse. The guards moved instantly. Vaylor raised a claw. And Elias moved faster. Not with speed that could be measured, speed that could only be witnessed. A small flick of his wrist. An impossible blur. A whisper of displaced air. Then he was standing exactly where he had been before. Still. Calm. Empty-handed. For a breath, nothing changed. Then Vaylor staggered. Delegates screamed as the king's crown clattered onto the stone. A single thin line opened at the base of his skull, clean as a laser incision. No spray. No roar. Just a soft exhale from a dying tyrant who finally realized what had happened. Vaylor collapsed to his knees, eyes wide with disbelief. One of the guards reached to catch him. But it was too late. The king crashed to the floor, his massive frame shaking the dais. Elias watched him fall with the stillness of someone who had calculated this moment 1,000 times. Delegates shrieked. Guards froze in confusion. The conclave's lights surged to emergency brightness. And in the chaos, Elias stepped forward, picked up the fallen crown, and placed it neatly beside the dead king's hand. Then he looked up at the chamber, at every species, every government, every watching pair of trembling eyes. And he said, in a voice quiet enough to silence galaxies. Earth does not begin wars. Earth ends them. He raised the thin metallic thread. It folded itself back into the bracelet, clicking shut with a soft magnetic lock. Then he clipped it onto his wrist as casually as someone fastening a watch. For a full moment, the conclave simply stared. And Elias Rowan, unarmed and unguarded, turned away from the king he had just executed. Behind him, Vaylor's blood flowed like a final signature across the dais. Elias took one breath, deep and steady. Then he said the words that would fracture the Dominion, rewrite Conclave law, and carve his actions into the memory of every species present. The war ends now. He stepped off the dais as the room erupted into chaos behind him. And he didn't look back. The chamber erupted. Guards braced for violence. Delegates scrambled backward, wings flaring, tendrils tightening, armored plates rattling in primal terror. But no one rushed forward. No one dared. Because Elias Rowan had not run. He had not fled like an assassin. He walked. Down the central path. Calm. Unhurried. Hands at his sides, as though leaving a diplomatic meeting that had ended early. The Conclave's translator spheres struggled to process the chaos, glitching, flashing red and blue as species shouted in a dozen languages. Every demand translated too late, too broken to matter. Stop him. Protect the body. Seal the exits. Is humanity declaring? Get him away from. None of it mattered. Elias reached the base of the final tier, and only then did someone find their voice. A Varn diplomat, tall, translucent, tendrils trembling, stepped into his path. What are you, human? The creature stammered. Elias met its gaze. I am what your king made me, he said quietly. Necessary. The Varn stumbled back, as if the truth itself burned. Alarms shrieked through the chamber. The entire hollow moon rumbled as emergency lockdowns snapped into place. Hardened shielding over the outer walls, weapon arrays powering on, gravity anchors bracing for impact. Guards swarmed the dais, but none crossed the line where Valor's blood touched the stone. Superstition or instinct, Elias couldn't tell. He passed through the shimmering veil that marked the chamber exit and emerged into the Conclave's main corridor. 1,000 luminous data scrolls flickered around him, broadcasting the impossible image that had just happened. Valor falling. The thin line on his neck. The crown tumbling. Elias's face, calm as carved stone. The corridor shook with panic. A cluster of Zirak soldiers raced toward him, armor crackling with Shakespeare energy. Elias didn't slow. Stand down, he said. They didn't. They lunged. And the hallway itself intervened. Conclave enforcers, towering constructs of living alloy, descended from the ceiling, slamming between Elias and the Zirak soldiers. Energy shields flared outward, forcing the Dominion troops back. One of the constructs turned its head toward Elias with a whir of crystalline gears. Earth representative, it intoned. You are ordered to proceed to a secure interview chamber. Elias shook his head once. No. The construct froze. Its programming had no response for defiance delivered without threat. I'm leaving, Elias said, and you won't impede me. Protocol, the construct began. Has already been superseded, Elias said. Check your central directives. The construct went still again. Its eyes flashed. A beat. Then. Directive confirmed, it said. You are permitted to depart. The Zirak soldiers recoiled, realizing what it meant. Someone, some authority, had overridden Conclave procedures. Not for a king. Not for a Dominion fleet. For a human. Elias moved onward. He reached the magrail that tunneled through the moon's core, its walls glowing with flowing starlight. The platform was empty, no delegates dared share a vessel with him. A soft chime. The car arrived, doors sliding open like the parted pages of an ancient tome. Elias stepped inside. As the vehicle shot forward along the luminescent rails, he closed his eyes. For the first time since entering the chamber, he let himself feel it, the tremor buried beneath his ribs. Not fear. Not guilt. Memory. He had seen tyrants rise before. He had seen entire systems crushed under doctrine and pride. And he had waited, too long, in those years. Watched too many worlds fall before intervention came. This time, he had acted first. The magrail slowed and glided into the transport bay. The bay was a cathedral of steel and vacuum shielding, ships of every design anchored in gravlocks, their hulls reflecting the luminescent veins carved into the moon. The Earth diplomatic cruiser awaited him at the far end. Its hull was midnight blue, chased with pale silver lines that pulsed like a heartbeat when its envoy approached. A familiar figure stood at the base of the ramp. Ambassador Lyra Hale. She looked as if she hadn't breathed since the chamber broadcast. "Elias," she whispered. "You killed him." He studied her face, shock, horror, something else beneath it. Grief? No. Recognition. "I ended a war," he said. "You ignited one," she snapped. "Do you understand what the Dominion will do now?" "They will splinter," Elias replied. "Not retaliate." Lyra shook her head, unable to reconcile the calm man before her with the storm he'd unleashed. "You executed a monarch in the single most public place in the galaxy. And because of that," Elias said, "there is no debate about what happened. No propaganda. No twisted narrative. Only truth." A deep rumble echoed through the bay as Dominion warships disengaged from their docking clamps across the upper tiers. Lyra's breath caught. "They're mobilizing." "Yes," Elias said. "But not toward us." "How can you possibly know that?" Elias stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Because tyrants rule by fear, not loyalty. Remove the fear, and the fractures reveal themselves." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, searching his expression for any sign of hesitation. She found none. "You planned this," she said finally. He didn't deny it. Footsteps echoed behind them. Four Conclave overseers approached, smaller than the enforcers, but radiating an authority far more dangerous. They wore shimmering robes woven with nanothreads that shifted like liquid mirrors. The lead overseer bowed slightly. "Representative Rowan. The Conclave requests your presence for formal review." "No," Elias said without turning. "I'm leaving." "You cannot depart," the overseer replied. "The Dominion demands immediate." "The Dominion has no king," Elias said. "And therefore no legal standing in the Conclave until succession is established." The overseer stiffened. "That is not for you to interpret." "It is an interpretation," Elias said. "It's law." The overseer hesitated, only a fraction of a second, but enough. Lyra stepped between them. "He is under Earth jurisdiction," she said. "Any attempt to detain him will be considered a breach of envoy protection." The overseers exchanged glances. Their robes flickered. Their authority faltered. Finally, they stepped back. "Departure is permitted," the lead overseer said. "Under temporary review." "Review all you want," Lyra muttered. Elias walked up the ramp. Inside the cruiser, the hum of engines pulsed through the floor, steady, controlled, waiting. The door sealed behind him. Lyra entered seconds later, pressing her palm to the console. "Command," she said. "Requesting immediate launch clearance, priority code Indigo." The ship acknowledged with a soft tone. Then Lyra turned to him. "You need to tell me everything," she said. Elias sat in one of the acceleration chairs. "Everything is too much," he replied. "But I'll tell you enough." She waited. He drew a breath. Valor wasn't bluffing, he said. His fleets were already in warp. The Conclave's borders would have been ash within a week. Lyra frowned. "So you killed him to stop the offensive?" "No," Elias said. "I killed him because stopping the offensive wasn't enough." She studied him. "What does that mean?" "It means," Elias said slowly, "that Earth cannot spend the next century reacting to tyrants. We need a precedent, one that echoes through every throne room in the galaxy." Lyra swallowed. "And that precedent is assassination?" "No," Elias said. "The precedent is clarity." The cruiser trembled as docking clamps disengaged. Gravity shifted. The stars outside the viewport began to rotate. "You think the galaxy will applaud you?" Lyra asked quietly. "No," Elias said. I think the galaxy will pause. And that pause is priceless. Lyra lowered into the chair opposite him. What happens next? She whispered. Elias looked at her, really looked, for the first time since entering the conclave. Next, he said. We wait. The ship's engines flared. The cruiser broke free of the moon's orbit, leaving behind the flickering lights of the conclave, the body of a fallen king, and a chamber that would replay Elias Rowan's final words for millennia. As the vessel glided into the starfield, Lyra closed her eyes. Do you regret it? She asked. Elias watched the stars streak past. Regret, he murmured. Regret is for choices. This wasn't a choice. He leaned back, and the hum of the engines became the only sound in the cabin. The Dominion demanded war, he said softly. I answered. Silence settled. Not the silence of fear. The silence after resolve. Then Elias closed his eyes, exhaled once, and let the galaxy adjust to what he had done.